the plan is we're going to work on some outside passing. So outside passing is really popular at the moment. You see a lot of the top lads using it at the highest level. It's used a lot for obviously passing guard, fatiguing your opponent and avoiding leg entanglement. So people are a lot better with leg locks and different types of guards, so it's a really good way of avoiding that. I'm just going to work real slow. We'll add details as we go along every couple of minutes, right? So with the outside passing, our goal is to avoid positions, say like athletic positions like side control, and try and get to north-south. Alright, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to get a grip on our training partner. So usually we're going to go with a grip, say on the shins, we're pushing the heels in towards the butt. Alright, there's going to be different variations of this as we go along. We're going to keep it fairly straightforward. So the grip that we're going to use for the first one is a thumb up grip. So there's thumb up and then there's thumb down. Alright, so we're going to go thumb up. I'm going to put, say, Evan's heels towards his butt. I'm going to create tension, and then what I want to do is I want to look at his posture. Alright, so if his back is on the floor like the way it is, or his shoulders are on the floor, as you say, this is going to be better suited to leg drags. Alright, so what we're going to work from is when our training partner's shoulders are rounded and they're kind of nearly doing a chin tuck. Alright, so what I want to do is push with my right hand and pull with my left hand. So I have a pull hand and a push hand. So my right hand pushes and my left hand pulls. Alright, we use this to create an angle, so it's really important. So to exaggerate this angle, when I push and pull, I'm going to move Evan and I'm going to take a step myself to create this angle. Normally I'm going to take a step where I get my foot past Evan's shoulder, and then we go into positions where we start camping. Alright, we'll work that in a couple of minutes. So again, we go up to our training partner, double kind of grip toe up, the heels towards the butt, we create tension, we look at his posture, so shoulders are rounded. We push with our right hand and we pull with our left hand. The side that we pull, that's the side we're going to take a step to exaggerate this angle. Alright, so we're just going to get reps on this. If you're comfortable doing one side, stay with that. If you're comfortable doing both, work left side, right side. Alright, so we'll do this for 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1. Alright, so the whole drill for now looks like this. So we create an angle, fist goes to the floor, forehead goes to the sternum, and we take this trap grip. So I want you to do this with your partner. So Evan's going to try to get his bottom knee back. So check, that's working well for me. He tries to get his left leg over. I keep driving in, putting pressure on his sternum. He tries to frame and move away. And then we just change over. Alright. These 3 things are really important for me to secure this pass. So what my head does is, when my head's in this position, if Evan tries to throw his left leg over my left shoulder, you can see it's not impossible, but it's hard. He's going to have to move his hips first. He moves his hips, he'll create an angle, and then he can throw his leg over and start attacking from here. Alright, but if I don't have my head in this position, Evan can just regain his guard. So it's really important you focus on these 3 things. So one is forehead goes to the sternum. The second one is we're going fist to the floor. The reason why we go fist to the floor is if Evan can't throw his left leg over my shoulder, he's going to try and get his right knee under to regain guard here. Makes sense? So we're going to shut down the top leg with our head, we shut down the bottom leg with our fist. So what does the hand do? The hand basically, when I shut down Evan's legs and hips, he's going to look to frame. Usually when someone frames, what they do is they move their head away from those frames. Here. So if we have our head on the sternum, fist to the floor, and I get this trap grip, if Evan tries to frame, he doesn't have the ability to move his head away. The reason why we're not taking the crossface is, so if we create an angle, we're here, and Evan is framing, this doesn't keep his head connected to mine. Alright, it's different if we manage to secure side control, then take a crossface all day. Alright, but we're trying to beat his top leg, his bottom leg, and we're trying to deal with these frames. These are usually most of the problems that you're going to come across when you're doing this style of passing. So instead of taking the crossface, take like this over back grip here and go flat hand, trying to connect the elbow to the back of the head, making him do a chin tuck. Now if Evan uses those frames, it's pretty hard. If Evan starts to hip escape to try to free his leg, I'm just going to follow him here. I'm going to keep constant pressure on him until I can secure my pass. Alright, so the whole drill for now looks like this. So we create an angle, fist goes to the floor, forehead goes to the sternum, and we take this trap grip. So I want you to do this with your partner. So Evan's going to try to get his bottom knee back. So check, that's working well for me. He tries to get his left leg over. I keep driving in, putting pressure on his sternum. He tries to frame and move away. And then we just change over. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Again, when we create this angle, so remember, shoulders off the floor, knees are to his chest. We create an angle by moving our training partner and stepping. I'm going to go with the fist to the floor. You can go a hand on the hip and you can go a hand and elbow on the hip. I just find that sometimes people that have really good guards, it can be hard to get in by their legs and their frame. So it's quite easy to get your fists to the floor or some type of variation of that. When your fist goes to the floor, if you go too close to his hip, he can still use his knee and your frame doesn't really work that well. Alright, if I go too close to the knee, he's able to just free his knee and then get his guard back. So a good kind of guideline is have your fist roughly where the line of his shorts is, so somewhere in the middle of his knee and his hip. Alright, so the next thing that we want to talk about is our posture. So we have, like say, tripod posture. So I'm burying down with my head. My upper body is basically, I'm using it for pressure and for control, but because the weight is on my head, it makes my feet nice and mobile, nice and fast. So you get a good mix of speed kind of passing and pressure passing. Alright, we're just going to go with like a basic finish on the first pass, and then we'll talk about problems and stuff as we go along. So again, we create the angle, we start to bury in, we get this trap grip, or this over back grip I should say. The more connection you have, especially for NoGi, is going to be better for you. So if I go just hand grip, say for example, and Evan frames, he just has more chance of freeing this. If I go hand and forearm, it's still better than a hand on its own, but eventually you start moving the frame. So what I want you to do is to get your hand, your forearm, your elbow, your bicep into place, and like make them do like say a crunch where you're bringing them forward. So now if Evan tries to frame, this is hard. So what I'm going to look to do now is I'm going to circle around to north-south, but I'm going to put focus on dropping my hips over his left shoulder. So I want to pin this shoulder because if he's on his side, obviously this is going to be better for defense. So I keep the head where it is, I circle the hips and the shoulder that's off the mat, I change my head position to the hip, so now I'm like in like a sash position. So my body is basically going to go from his left shoulder towards his right hip, here. And then what we can do is we can start to take the elbows off the floor. Alright, so if we can get his elbows inside and our elbows outside, it's going to be very hard for Evan to turn on the side and build up. So if you try to build up now, Evan, I'm just keeping his elbows off the floor. If he can get his elbows to the floor, now Evan can start to build up. He's in more of an athletic position. The other advantage of having, say, his hands outside and my hands, his hands inside and my hands outside is, if his head comes up off the mat, we can go into north-south, or we can switch off to arm bars, kimuras, back attacks and so on. Alright, so let's add that into our drill. 3, 2, 1. So on our first one, what we did is, we did 2 up grips. Alright, we said that we have a push hand and a pull hand. So the side that I'm passing to is usually going to be a push hand, and the opposite side is going to be a pull hand. Alright, if his shoulders are off the floor, you're going to move them a lot easier because there's going to be less friction. But what we can also do is we can go with an up grip and a down grip. Alright, so I'm going to go, this time instead of going towards the shins, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go more towards the Achilles. Alright, so I'm going to go, say, right down where his heel is. This is really good for, like, say, pushing someone in the opposite direction, so creating an angle. Alright, so where if I go here, there's a weakness to my right grip. If I move him, you can see I'm exaggerating this a little bit. Whereas if I go here, my palms are facing in the direction that I want to move Evan. Alright, so this is really good for setting up leg drags, and it's really good for setting up our north-south passing. So what I'm going to do now is, maybe we find that we're not able to put his knees to his chest, so we're going to work at maybe a longer range. We're going to go with a down grip, and we're going to go with up grip. So just basically your thumbs up and your thumbs down. The direction that my palms are facing, that's the direction I'm going to move Evan. Alright, we're going to do this, the same frame on the floor with the fist. We're going to get the head into position, we get the hand into position, we circle around, and then we complete our pass. Alright, so just go again. So then Evan's shoulders are kind of rounded, up grip, down grip, angle, and we use this to drop into north-south. Alright, so 3, 2, 1. When I create the angle, the next thing that I'm kind of looking for is, if I can't get, like, exaggerate the angle like we did in the beginning, where I got to the foot past the shoulder, you're not always going to get it, alright? But if I can get the foot past the line of the hip, this is going to be good. Eventually I want to get the foot past the line of the shoulder. Alright, so it depends on your partner's guard and how much of an angle you create. But when I do take a step, and just say I step by the line of his hip, or I don't get by the line of his shoulder, what I'm going to look to do is, I'm going to look to see if his knee is on the floor, or if his knee is off the floor. Alright, so if I create the angle and Evan's right knee touches the floor, this is going to be better suited for me for getting my fist towards the mat and then working the pass we were doing. A lot of time, a good strong guard player, I might be able to create the angle, but he's going to do a good job of keeping his knee off the floor. So this is going to be hard for me to get my fist on the mat. So what we're going to do is, we're going to go with a down grip here, and I'm going to reinforce it with my head. So if Evan tries to turn back in towards me here, you can see my forehead is on my frame, I have a thumb down grip, When Evan eventually does get his knee to the floor, the fist goes to the mat, the head goes to the sternum, and then the hand goes to the shoulder. So eventually we're getting to that position, but what we're doing is we create this angle. Our goal is to basically step past the line of the shoulder. But again, you're not always going to get that. The angle that you'll get probably against a good guard player if they're kind of switched on is foot past the line of the hip, all right? And once we create the angle, we're looking at the inside knee. So if I manage to get the inside knee to the floor, sorry, so if you give me a little bit of resistance, so inside knee to the floor, fist goes to the mat. If Evan's playing like good strong guard, I create the angle and come to here. So this is a strong frame, but it's even stronger if we use self-framing. So self-frame is where I create frames, or if I use frames and I frame off myself. So we're going thumb down, my elbow, to make this stronger, my elbow is higher than my wrist here, and then my forehead goes in onto my forearm here. Now this isn't going to keep Evan, it's not going to be impossible for him to retain his guard, but it's going to be enough for me to take a step, and when he does start to get to his knee to the mat, I can put my fist to the mat. Alright, so we'll try to do this a little bit faster. So here, Evan regains guard, and now we're into north-south. Alright, 3, 2, 1. We're going to do a little bit of specific training, all right, and then we'll go back to technique. So what I mean with this is we'll talk tactics, and we'll talk follow-up attacks depending on the way your opponent defends, right? So what I want you to do is we'll do 2 minutes each. We're trying to focus on outside passing. Obviously you get to north-south, get side control. If it comes up, if someone turtles up and gives up the back, take that, right? So we're in a secure position. The only goal for the person on the bottom is to try and tangle you. Alright, so to pull you into half guard, single leg X, maybe it might be a Choi bar, it could be like a triangle attempt. No sweeps, no submissions, don't continue rolling. You get tangled, that's a win for the person on the bottom. I want you to treat the person on the bottom like they have the most dangerous leg lock game in the world, and you can't step into it. So we have to try step around it and work around it. Alright, so 3, 2, 1. Common mistake when people are outside passing is they only create lateral kind of pressure. So side-to-side pressure. So what I mean is if you don't let me pass your guard, you see people they're trying to go around here, they might have grips but they're moving left and moving right. Alright, to get really good at this style of passing, you want to create lateral pressure and you want to create forward pressure. Alright, so what I mean with this is, a good example of this, an even better way of showing this is we can do outside passing against a seated opponent, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Let's say if Evan is kind of like playing more kind of seated, and say like if I move to the right, he's going to move. If I move to the left, he's going to move. If I start that in, pushing him to the floor, and I move at the same time, you can see I can create angles. It's the same as when he's lying on his back. When he's lying on his back, I'm constantly touching him. I move to the left, move to the right, until he makes a mistake, or I create space to get inside. Alright? So keep that in mind. We're going to do one more of these rounds. The bottom player, their goal is to entangle you, and what we're going to add in now is the bottom player is now allowed to wrestle up. So maybe they catch your leg and then they can wrestle up, or maybe you're kind of standing here, they can get a blast double, single leg and so on. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Just going to talk a little bit about tactics. So let's say we have a match next weekend and we choose to do standing passing, for example, right? Like I have to ask myself, like if I am going to enter into someone's guard, so maybe like into HQ, or maybe it'd be like high tripod passing or whatever it might be, right? I have to ask myself, am I willing to deal with, say, Evan's leg lock entries, or am I able to beat his entanglements? So let's say, for example, like if I'm confident that if Evan starts going for leg locks, I'm able to take his back off, or I'm able to pass, then I'll step inside. But let's say, for example, you have a match against like Mateusz Jasinski next weekend. If you step inside his guard, he's probably going to break your foot or break your arm. You're probably better off going on the outside. All right. That's not to say that you can't mix the two of them together, but it really comes down to the opponent that you're going against, or who you're going against in the gym. So that's really important. So that'd be your strategy. Will I stay on the outside and stay away from danger, or am I confident enough to step inside, lead with my legs, and deal with the entanglements? So it all comes down to how dangerous your training partner's leg lock game is, or whatever it might be. All right, that's the way to look at that. A really good pass that works really well, say with outside passing, is the duck under pass. All right. So we managed to create our angle. I managed to get my fist to the floor. I get my forehead to his sternum, and I get the hand on the back here. We already talked about what to do if he frames, and he's locked out frames. We can't move away from them. We just run towards the direction that he's pushing us with those frames. But what will happen a lot of time is if Evan's not able to get his frames going and he's not able to get his knee under to regain guard, he's going to try hip escape to create space, and then he's going to high leg. He's basically going to bring his leg from my right shoulder over towards my left shoulder, regain guard, and then take back that advantage of the angle that I got. All right. So what we do when we find that we're, so I suppose prevention, we'll talk about prevention first. If Evan starts to hip escape, so I just keep moving with him. All right. But Evan catches me cold and he moves, he throws his leg over. Well, what we'll do is take my leg out. If I leave my hand on his shoulder, this is just where I'm going to get Choi guard. Alright, so if anyone watched ADCC or even CGI, there was a lot of like armbar submissions because of outside passing. Alright, so we have to be aware of when our hand is in this position and he throws the leg from the right shoulder to the left shoulder, this is Choi guard territory. So what we want to do is we take our head out, I take a scoop grip and I start to pass on this side. Alright, so we just go one more time. So we're here, if Evan tries to move, I'm going to keep following him. If I find that he throws the leg over, I take a scoop. Here, hand is on the fist is on the floor, so I'm blocking that knee. What I'm going to do is I step this leg over that frame, I step my right leg over my left leg, and now what I'm looking to do is take side control, take it back, depending on the way you response. Alright, so this is going to be a really common response that you'll see if you haven't seen it already in the last couple of positional rounds that we did. So again, so we create an angle, head goes to the sternum, fist goes to the floor, hand goes to the back. Evan throws the leg over the shoulder, I take a scoop grip, keep the fist on the floor, we cut our left knee through, I step my right leg over my left leg, and then I'm just going to work my way into side control. Alright, so 3, 2, 1.
Other than when you're coming back, are you always never swapping your feet?
Don't show us where Evan.
Like, just in the general passing, you're never crossing your feet like that.
I try, like there is, you know what high step passing is? Like say, high step passing is where you like kind of bring your knees up to your chest and try to step over the guard rather than around the guard. So you might, like a simple example of a high step would be best with, where say if I step into Evan's guard, you've probably seen this a few times kind of messing with him where you high step here and then you create angles and stuff like that. So high step passing is very popular as well at the moment. That's where you kind of step in and then you're able to like step and cross your feet and so on. But again, it's really like boxing, everything has footwork. Alright, same as judo, judo has footwork. For this style, for me, if I'm stepping left, I'm going, or if I'm moving left, I'm going left leg, right leg, left leg, right leg. I try not cross my feet yet. But you can, a lot of time you won't cross your feet, but you could end up crossing your hands. So if any whatsoever a two-lows pass, they're very good at getting into north-south positions like this, then switching their grips or burying in. Alright, so I suppose like if you're out of position or you lose your balance, then you're vulnerable to being countered. So any other questions or?
You know when you're moving your head from the other side.
Yeah.
I found it like naturally. I was lifting the fist up and pinning the shin.
Yeah.
And then scooping through.
Yeah, you're saying left scoop, right hand pin.
Yeah.
So
just naturally, I felt I had to do it.
Yeah, that's perfect.
That's where you're having 6 foot long arms.
No, that's perfect.
And here.
Yeah.
So he throws the leg up. And going here, and then pinning here.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, lovely. Like what we were saying earlier on. So if you do the pass, you said you were going with a scoop rather than a fist grip. So if you just show that to everyone there for a second. So the pass we were doing where we were going knee or fist to the floor. What Neil was doing was he was going with a scoop grip. He was right hand. And this is all good, but the big thing that I want you to, this is perfect, right? So what I want you to do to really take away from tonight is like we all learn techniques and we put our own little flair on it. And it's the space between the notes that like really make the technique work for your personality and for your body type and so on. So what I would say is, what I really want you to take away is when we want to create an angle, which with whatever grips that we choose, there's different grips we can talk about as well. We didn't get to cover all of them. If you watch Tackett versus Owen O'Flanagan, he did a great job of passing. So a lot of this stuff, you can go back and watch CGI, for example, or you can watch ADCC, and there's loads of good examples. Baby Shark did a great, really good variation of this fist to the floor in the final against Diego Patau. So angle is number one. You can choose the grips to suit you, and then when you get into that camping position, understand you need those 3 things. So you need your forehead on the sternum, you need a fist on the floor, or some type of control on those hips to shut down that bottom knee. All right, but you'll find your own variation, and you need the hand on the back to deal with those frames. All right. So what we'll do is, if you no other questions yet, we're going to do a couple of positional rounds to get this really going. Person on the bottom is looking to sweep, submit, wrestle up, so everything's in. Person on top, just for the first round, you're only allowed to do outside passing. And as we go along, we'll do some specific training and scenarios, right? 3, 2, 1. That's the thing. But like, any other questions outside of the passing or anything else?
When I was in the north-south, I found they were getting frames on my hips and they were real difficult to break.
No, show us. Yeah, that's a big thing. So that's
I was in here and Evan had that.
yeah.
And I was trying to pull away, but as I pulled away, I was finding myself.
Yeah, it's a skill where you have to, it's a skill we call like burying in or digging in. And like, if we had more time, we could have went into that, like say, in a lot more detail. But to kind of give you, like say, something, you know, to start off on is use these thumb posts. See, when my head is higher than my hips, this is going to be, it's not going to be good for burying in. So I bring my legs back, and I like to take, say, I'm stepping over to say towards one of his shoulders rather than his head sitting my legs. So I'm here. All right. My whole goal now is to get my left ear towards his left or right hip. Sorry. So if Evan tries to frame, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to use my chest and my upper body to break his frames. Right. So I'm not going to do it in one movement. I'm going to do small movements. So if he tries to push, like he's trying to bench press, that's why I drop a shoulder, drop a hip, and then I start to bury into that position. So that's a good thing to start. So what that does is that stops you stepping back and giving him space to get his guard in. All right, this all depends on if you have your hands inside his hip. Sometimes you might have your hands on the shin and different ways of dealing with that as well. So find it here. He has these frames. Again, see where my head is higher than my hips. I step and I take a step back here. All right, so if Evan's framing, I'm going to use my chest to shimmy down, and then I bury in here. You want to try that? Yeah. And it's really important to do like positional rounds from here because you'll get a lot better at it. So yeah, now bury in. Perfect. Yeah. So it's going to take practice, but there's a few other little details. But that's a good place to start.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Any other questions? We're all good. All right. So we'll do a photo and then we'll do some rounds. Yeah. Because everyone starts getting ready for town in the morning. Two people in the seminar, just me and Ken. Alright, so yeah, if you are leaving, I just want to say thanks very much for having me over, listening to me. This place is a special place in my heart. This is where I started out in Portlaoise. That place, Curves Gym, is where Charlie Ward and John Lee used to beat the fuck out of me, and that's why I hate them to this day. Yeah, so and it's class to see the level of the gym, the facility and everything else. I'm just saying it's always good atmosphere and good buzz when I come here. Alright, so thanks very much for having me.